cutting back all the time, and Taka is going to be going forward. They have to be able to make sure that Taka kills the target that he goes on. If he doesn't, their composition breaks down.
All right, guys, keep your eyes on this Taka. The match is underway, and with that, we toss it over to our casters, Forecourt Jester and Tasty Bacon. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Humanist and Rome, and we are getting into game number 2 here. Halcyon Hammer's Velocity are on the blue side now with that 1-game advantage in this best of 3 to determine who will finish 3rd place in the 2nd qualifier of the winter season and secure themselves 85 points going into the live finals. Very important match here.
So D'Enzio this time is on Sky, and if you remember last round, it's just like, all right, he wasn't on the Sky, it was actually Sky on the flip side. If you look at the comp, it's actually now Ringo, Catherine, and Sky. So this is, again, a comp that we've seen a lot of, really good results with. Unfortunately, it did not work for LiberationX game number 1, but this time with the Catherine, perhaps instead of that Arden, D'Enzio and crew are just going to say, all right, well, this is how you actually play this comp, and the Taka pick is very intriguing to me.
Yeah, the Taka pick, but we may have to hold off on talking about that because E36, yeah, that is his name. I don't know why I thought it was a different number, but either way, he is going to get caught out bit here. Taka, status baked, trying to steal away these backs, is going to get at least the heal camp. Baines knows he's there, but I don't know if you want to 1v1 a Taka at this low level.
It's more about he's just trying to put up the pressure, waste the hit points, waste the timing, and trying to steal the steal. Unfortunately, it's just not going to work. And now Vain's going to be in definitely a little bit of trouble. No Scarf to come down and help him. Scarf, yeah, because he's on the other team. Aloha, however, will come down to help him, so that makes a little bit more sense. And Status Bake's just going to have to try to do the rest by himself. At the same time, Sky has already cleaned up her invade, and now she's going to be coming back into the fold. And Status Bake, a little bit delayed on his return, but by the end of it, all the invades were successful. It's still only the 1 kill, but at this point, the 1 kill doesn't really amount to much. The gold is pretty much still dead even, and nothing really big else is going to be going on. Not until Taka decides to do something else.
Yeah, that was almost a really nice play into the lane by Aloha and Vains, but thankfully for T-Tigers, E36 got back there just in time to offer up that shield and get him out to safety. And the one concern I have for Halcyon Hammers here is a lot of times when we see a Scarf, we always talk about how the big way to deal with it is by jumping immediately onto him, and Taka is actually one of the really great heroes for doing that, jumping onto the Scarf and instantly taking him out before the fight even begins. With this lineup that the Halcyon Hammers have, they may have a little bit of trouble doing just that, but they certainly aren't having any trouble jumping onto E36.
Yeah, it's just way too early. He's not tanky, he doesn't have the items, and, well, doesn't really have the movement speed either. So another quick kill. D'Enzio is able to pick it up by way of acrobatics and Suri Strike, and now Status Baked. He's saying, okay, well, let's do this, T-Tigers. Unfortunately, I'm just not entirely too sure that T-Tigers is going to be able to follow where the Status Baked wants to go. 2 quick kills for the Halcyon Hammers. It's a really good way to start off their early game. Have you noticed yet, though, Bacon, that D'Enzio is started off with the double weapon? Now he has a crystal bit.
Yeah, I think the double weapon may have just been to help out with the jungle clear speed, which is a little, oh my goodness, Status Bake is going to be getting caught out trying to invade.
Toasted.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on which is more efficient, if only because you can clear the jungle rather quickly with crystal bits by just firing off that forward barrage and the Suri Strike. But obviously when those are on cooldown, the extra weapon damage definitely helps with clearing. Also, obviously, for early trades, we see all too many times where a Sky ends up with no mana, especially against an Arden, and just can't win that trade anymore because she's effectively healing Arden by attacking him. And so, definitely going to help out with that. I would expect to see it be a full crystal build from here on out, but you never know. I mean, Halcyon Hammers, they do like to, it's mostly Kinetic that likes to pull out these stranger compositions, but, obviously same organization, maybe some of that's rubbed off. We'll have to see.
Well, I mean, I'm basically just going to agree with you at this point because the double weapon, I was curious if she was to go one more weapon item. I was going to say we're going to have a double weapon build, especially with the weapon Sky, but as you can see it now, the crystal bit, it becomes a heavy. He steals one of those, gets another bit, has an oak heart now as well. So it was just for the beginning. That's a little bit of a shame. I wanted to see what a double weapon combo could actually do, but hey, if you're here for keeps, then it's probably best to diversify and pick it up now. More crystal for Danzo is going to pay off in the long run, and at the same time, he's also 5. That's a little curious.
I just realized what that was. It may have just been a huge mind game. Look at the items on LiberationX. Every single one of them has armor. None of them have shield.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of the next pickup that I was very curious about. But Status Baked is level 6. Danzo does not have that death from above. Here comes that Dragon's Breath as well, but Status Baked is now going to be a little bit low, a little bit too low. I think Aloha is now going to be on that front line, and he just gets Zerg down. E36 with some sweet vengeance gets that kill with the blood for blood, and well, now Halcyon Hammers, now they have that level 6. They didn't have ultimates for those fights, and that was a little bit more of an advantageous engage from LiberationX.
Yeah, definitely. Now they're trying to steal away the backs, but this is going to be Vains and Dienzio finding them here. And it's going to be Sky coming in. Where's the Series Strike to get that extra damage? Aloha is also coming down as well. This could turn very south for LiberationX, and it will. Dienzio just barely staying alive on the backside of that is going to recall. Taka just got the tension bow 6.5 minutes in, a little bit later than you usually like, but he didn't just rush it. So that's why it was delayed a bit, because he did get the health and armor along the way as well.
And double armor pickups, 2 light armors, 1 on T-Tigers, 1 on Status. So even at the 6.5 minute mark, that's not too terrible to pick up that tension. And now his damage should be a little bit more explosive. An immense gold payout. Going to explode into the coffers here of Dienzio. And now, again, they have those level 6s. They're still looking for Vains to pick up the slack and get his ultimate. But when it comes to this next fight, I would expect some pretty heavy power to be on the side of Halcyon Hammers.
Yeah, especially the first Fountain of Renewal is out as well, whereas E36,
too.
He's going to be waiting a little bit for that because he opted to get the Storm Guard first, which did pay off. Got him the kill shortly after picking that one up, but they are going to be missing that tier 3 item, and there's going to be that tension, but one attack drops Aloha down to 1/4 of his health, and that's going to be something that Aloha's going to have to worry about really for the rest of this game, is the threat of Status Baked on this Taka, just popping the Kaku, going invisible, and jumping onto him for an incredible burst of damage.
Yeah, and it's going to be up to Vains to try to do as much peeling as he can. Dienzio might be able to put down deaths from above, but those dodges do make it very dicey to kind of use that cooldown on that Taka. Much better to just try to throw it down on T-Tigers instead, but this is more or less the double rush down from LiberationX. They just saw the 3 melee and how well it worked against those range, so now seeing this Sky and Ringo, if you can Zerg, then it is going to be a little bit harder to fare if you can get up into the face of these ranged characters. Now, we do got a 3v1 situation here. Mid, Dienzio very confidently moving forward. The backs have just gotten stolen out, though, and, okay, they're getting stolen out by now. Status Baked very lucky on that spawn. You can see as well, Dienzio and crew, they're well aware, so they're just going to counter their own.
Yeah, not only do they have potential vision on their backs of that being stolen, but you can also read your opponent's play to try and get an idea of where they are. As everyone, oh my goodness, this could be a dangerous fight. Oh, Status Baked just leaves his Arden for dead.
He puts the basket on his head and just walks out.
He's like, hey, if I can't see the fight, it's not happening. That is apparently the strategy there of the Taka. But oh my goodness, poor E36. He's just not having the best go of it right now. But his allies are staying alive, so I guess as the tank, he is doing his job. So
well, there's 2 roles of an Arden. The first is either to die for your carry, and the second is to not die for the ace. And well, all right, I'm not entirely too sure a lot of these kills have fallen under those categories, but it wasn't even like a Vanguard attempt either. They just let Status Baked walk away free and clear on that. So either way, about 1,000, 1,500 or so gold between the teams. 6-1, still pretty heavy here for the Halcyon Hammers. Here at the almost 10-minute mark. The pace has slowed down a bit, but the farming has been fairly kind to the Halcyon. 91 for Aloha is actually not beating out T-Tigers. T-Tigers, one of the higher creep scores in this game per minute at any rate. And he is sticking just above 10 a minute. But at the same time, look at Status Baked and Danzio. They're pretty even as well.
Yeah, it's a very close game despite all the kills going over. That's something that we've seen multiple times, but Status Baked, he's going to be one taking a lot of this damage here. Now they turn on to E36.
Oh, great death from above. There's just no chance at a gauntlet, and they just bring him down low. That was a great fires, Dragon's Breath from T-Tigers to start things off. He did bring the crew down, but we had the fountain ready to go. The death from above stopped any attempt at a gauntlet, and you saw Veins as well. As soon as they saw Lataka, they popped the flare, they stunned him in Kaku, couldn't get onto that back line, and then as you see, just kind of dies in retreat. So that is going to be a 2-for-0. Looking for the hat trick now as T-Tigers just has really nowhere to go. Can he return the damage for D'Enzio? Will he even go down himself?
Not quite, and it was actually a 2-for-1 as Aloha did fall to T-Tigers from the burning damage at the end of that. But still a fight for Halcyon Hammers once again, and they are looking good. They're up by about 2,000 gold, and they have a good amount of vision control. They have a lot of scout traps down around the map, and even one on the opponent's side of the map. It's not too deep or anything, but it is still a little bit extra vision just to know where your opponents are.
Big question mark on the gold mine. That is a good question right now. 11 minutes in, it's nice and full. If you can get a good fight, you might be able to just sneak it in for free. You can see some poke going back and forth, Spitfires and forward barrages, checking bushes for everyone, and at the same time, the tension is going to be very palpable here in the lane. They're just looking for that breaking point.
Yeah, there are actually infusions on both Taka and Ringo, although Aloha's is going to be running out pretty shortly here. They do only last 2.5 minutes, and that's probably going to be something that LiberationX is definitely going to keep their eye on, because once that infusion goes down, they would actually have the advantage in a full 3-on-3 fight. And T-Tiger's just doing what he can to farm out this lane, trying to get some poke onto Aloha. But Aloha's doing a very good job of dodging out those Spitfires.
So we don't have a reflex on E36. We do have one on Status Baked, but we don't have one on T-Tigers either. So in terms of like Veins and his preferred target, if he can get into the back and on top of T-Tigers, there's really nowhere for him to go. Like, there's not going to be a reflex block. We can Surrey Strike on over, and that's going to be a really easy target to find. Now they're going to find Status Baked, who's perhaps just a little bit too far forward. E36 with the Vanguard, but now the damage is already done. Veins is looking for blood. Can we get that stun? Can we get that rush down onto the T-Tigers? Well, that's going to be a gauntlet, and that allows the windup of the Dragon's Breath to come right through this. D'Enzio going to be low. Has that reflex? Isn't enough. Another Vanguard keeps Status Baked going, and now it's a 2-for-1 trade going over to LiberationX, but Veins gets one, cannot clean up the rest. It will be the ace to LiberationX and the first kill, or first fight that they've won this match.
Yeah, and that is a big component of this. Any team with a Scarf is if Scarf can stay safe on the back lines, and that's precisely what happened. The Splash Tremor didn't actually catch T-Tigers, so he wasn't silenced. He was able to just put out damage from the other side of the garden of the Ardent Gauntlet. Let's try and combine both of those words into one. Makes it sound far less intimidating. Say the garden wall.
I did cleave and cone yesterday into clone.
But see, at least the clone could be impressive. Like saying you're gonna get blocked by the garden wall doesn't quaight have the same intimidation factor to it.
Yeah, but think about Glaive and he gets the kill with a clone. Right.
A clone of Glaive sounds pretty terrifying, not gonna lie. Having to deal with two of those, that is not something that sounds like I would want anything I would want to deal with. But T-Tigers, as long as he can stay on the back lines, you mentioned he didn't have the reflex block before. He doesn't really necessarily need it early on because it is so difficult for them to try and get onto him as long as his positioning is on point. He does have it now, which will, of course, it's pretty much a requirement in any high-level game to have a reflex block of some kind. Aloha and Vain's the only two that actually do not have that capability. Actually, no, E36 still does not have one either. But T-Tigers, as long as he can stay on the back lines of these fights and stay behind his allies, he's going to be able to just wreak so much havoc. Obviously, the shields are going to be start to come out. Dienzio does have the full, second tier of the shield item. Likely just going to turn that into an Aegis. Or I believe that is the Aegis. Yes, that is the Aegis. My apologies. Those shield items look so similar. But it is the
They're all
Aegis.
yellow, man.
They're all yellow and they all have that, just the shield on a diagonal. So, but it is the Aegis completed on Dienzio, which is obviously just to try and protect from this T-Tiger's damage because it's going to be immense.
So, back to a little bit of farming, as LiberationX has been clearing, well, not only lane, but some of this jungle. Status Baked has been doing a few invades here and there, and Spitfires have been actually caught by Vain's more often than not. He have been watching the battle of his health regeneration versus Fan the Flames. Gets the stun on top of T-Tigers. Is Dienzio going to go for it in the back? They've left Status Baked and Aloha, but Aloha is actually winning out that one. T-Tigers is not winning out this one. The Surrey Strike is going to be enough. Status Baked has lived. Would you believe there's not going to be an ace here unless they just blind check that bush, and it's not going to be enough. But Status Baked against Aloha, it was just a bullet frenzy, and Taka couldn't deal. He used the Kaku to get out, and he just hid and ran away. He will prevent the ace. But the team getting split up like that did not do them any kind of favors. We didn't have, a good opportunity for a gauntlet. In fact, the gauntlet's still on still off cooldown. And T-Tiger's getting zerged like that. This is why I was suspecting he needed that reflex block a little bit earlier rather than later. But, all right, you split up. That's a big opportunity for some map dominance here from Halcyon Hammers.
Yeah, and I would actually like to see... I like the idea of jumping onto Ringo as the Taka. He doesn't have any armor whatsoever, so that's where you're going to be able to do the most damage, outright. But at the same time, I feel like Dienzio needs to be the focus target from all three members of LiberationX, because Dienzio is going to have aside from a Merciless Pursuit, has the easiest time of trying to jump onto the back lines and jump onto T-Tigers. So if you can take out Dienzio, it's sort of the same thing where, obviously you have Status Baked to deal damage, but so much of your composition relies on keeping T-Tigers safe. At the same time, you have Dienzio and Aloha that can both deal damage, but so much of their composition relies on Dienzio being able to jump forward with that Surrey Strike onto the back lines and get into T-Tiger's face and, just keep him from being able to put that damage out. So they both have that supplemental damage, but actually we're going to have to find out. It's everyone grouped up.
Yeah, and Dienzio immediately, he just uses that reflex block to get through that gauntlet. He's still trying to take down T-Tigers, and it's a really, really big chore at this point. They finally will take him down, but we have lost out too. It's just Dienzio now up against E36, and that forward barrage is not going to be near enough. Status Baked, is his cooldowns ready to go? He has an X-Retsu. Is he going to find Dienzio? The escape is good. The player coming down just not in time. So what happened with a 2-for-1 is now served right back to the Halcyon Hammers in a 2v1 advantage for LiberationX, but they're so low they can't do Kraken.
And this is what we were hoping to see at the onset of this best-of-3 matchup, is close, hard-fought games, and that's exactly what we have here now. Warhorn is picked up to go along with the Atlas Pauldron and the Fountain of Renewal for Arden. Obviously, the Pauldron going to be used primarily onto Aloha to slow down that attack speed. And they are really itemizing against Aloha at this point, as there's double Atlas Pauldrons for the side of LiberationX. So even though Dienzio is the one that is really the big threat for T-Tigers, it looks like they're, as a whole, are primarily more concerned about the damage that can come out of Aloha. And rightfully so. Obviously, Ringo in the late game carry stages does an immense amount of damage. But we'll have to see if they can keep T-Tigers alive and if they can get their target, as they are going in again.
Blast Tremor goes down, but that gauntlet is ready to be used. The death from above. T-Tigers is a huge target, and Aloha just can't stutter step to victory on this one. Even Vain's as the last one to drop. There's just no way of taking down T-Tigers. The fountains, the reflexes, and now those Vanguards. E36 is looking like a superstar by the end of it because T-Tigers is living through it. He has that Eve of Harvest on top of things. And with a 3-0, this is for sure a Kraken, a turret, and possibly even more.
What an immense amount of trust there from T-Tigers. Stood right on top of the Death from Above throughout the entire duration of it in order to get the ultimate channeled and get his abilities out before that. And if he had taken the time to back up off of that, that could have been the difference between the ace going in favor of LiberationX versus it going towards Halcyon Hammers. But he had the trust in his allies to get that Fountain of Renewal, to get the shield from Arden, and it worked out to perfection. The little bit of fortified health going a long way, and able to stay alive throughout that fight, despite pretty much doing exactly what Halcyon Hammers wanted to happen in standing on that Death from Above. Just wasn't quite enough.
Kraken's going to be moving forward. Status baked in crew. It's, well, one turret down, looking very much like the second one now. We are going to get some burning damage there on top of T-Tigers with the Hellfire, but I'm not entirely too sure that's going to be enough to dissuade these guys from coming in. With that Eve of Harvest, every pot shot is going to be returning, but there's the Blast Hammer. Death from Above will not hit, and well, I'm going to have to eat crow on that one. T-Tigers is just going to fold under that pressure. E36 going to take that entire front forward barrage, and now it's just up to Status Baked. He can't hit the crystal yet, but he might be able to buy enough time, do enough damage with his X-Ratsu. Good dodge there from the Chitin as well, and that will actually be now that crystal turret. Now Status Baked, he's thinking of going home. Aloha says, nah, you can stay here and die for your trouble, but man, 4 turrets, and the crystal is now going to be naked. That Halcyon Hammers team need to win this next set of fights, because if they get aced again, it's going to be GG.
Yeah, they also need to start being careful because the threat of a backdoor is very real. Obviously, they thankfully don't have to worry about anyone jumping over the wall because they just don't have the utility to do so without the minions, as Status Baked is the only one. Actually, Arden could gauntlet over, but you generally aren't going to have to worry about Arden ending the game on a backdoor. However, they do need to try and get some vision down. I would be so ecstatic if it happened. I just don't expect it to whatsoever. They did get some scout traps down in the entrance to their base, so they will see a backdoor attempt if it does happen, which is why they're able to play this far forward. Double infusions coming out for just about everyone, although Dienzio, his infusion just wore out and he doesn't have enough gold to buy another one, so they're gonna have to stall until he can get that. He only has the one, so he was able to at least pick up the crystal infusion, but doesn't have the weapon, which obviously double infusion is ideal, but Scarf is also sitting on no infusions now, and they're gonna find a fight.
And we're not going to get a stun out of Veins. He went so far forward for that. Death from Above is going to come out. T-Tigers, however, is going to be separated from that Taka. Taka's now going to be forced down. Dienzio is out. T-Tigers will not live, and E36 is now going to have to deal with a 2v1 situation. And Aloha, he does not need no energy to make these shots happen. Those auto attacks are going to be more than enough. And Halcyon Hammers will take that fight. 19-11 for score. Gold pretty much dead even. But if they make one flub here into this late game, it could be game for themselves. They're going to take this time to clear out some of this infrastructure, probably even still pick up another turret at least. And then, you know, perhaps we can start posturing around for the Kraken.
Yeah, they're definitely going to get this second turret. And now, 24 minutes into the game, no lane turrets left whatsoever. It pretty much means if a team wins a fight decisively, if it's a ace for 1 or an ace for 0, that's game over. It doesn't matter which side it is. If a team fight is decisively won, whichever team wins it wins the game, because the death timers are going to be so long. And Veins needs to get out of here. Will of course have the movement speed, has boots, merciless pursuit, plenty of tools to get out of there. I'm a little surprised that there's no Warhorn for this team just yet, but obviously, you know, the they haven't really needed it, but it's such a good utility item to have, and of course getting extra damage onto jungle camps as well. But everyone posturing up around this middle. There goes the gauntlet.
Now, it does actually get a stun on top of D'Enzio, but the gauntlet's going to go down very quickly. Vayne's into the back trying to keep T-Tigers at bay, but Aloha is a huge target right now. Status Bake versus Aloha. There was a channel for the Hellfire, and they're going to be succeeded by taking down T-Tigers, but the rest of the Halcyon Hammers are going to fall. Status Baked, just way too much pressure on that back line, and D'Enzio at last will go down for a shutdown, no less, with no turrets to speed up this regeneration and this respawn. I think this is just game. Status Bake can just triumphantly walk into this and force a game number 3 for our 3rd place match.
Yeah, still 30 seconds left. No one's going to be up in time, and that is in fact going to be game number 3 for Halcyon Hammers versus LiberationX to determine who will take home 3rd place in this winter, the 2nd winter qualifier. And there's so much more on the line too. It's, not only are you getting 3rd place here, the winner of this will be either 3rd or 4th place going into the winter championships, depending on which team wins it. Whoever loses ends up in 6th. That is a massive difference in terms of the seeds. And so that's what they're playing for, and we're gonna have a blind pick to determine how this goes.
114 gold separating Aloha and T-Tigers. 114. Very close game by the end of it, but unfortunately, even with all those kills, Halcyon Hammers late game, this apparently was not up to par. Couldn't delete T-Tigers fast enough, and now forcing us into a game 3. I'm going to throw it back to the layers so we can set things up and get this blind pick rolling.